Never in the history of India was there an all-out Hindu versus Muslim war. Never, until the British came. Under every Mughal emperor, you had Hindus fighting. And under every Indian emperor outside of Mughals, the Rajputs, the Marathas, you had Muslims fighting. It was a political war. It was never an all-out Hindu versus Muslim. I'm not saying we're the same. Of course we're not the same. But they understood that we're not going to fight each other and kill each other just because we have different faiths. The first time Hindu-Muslim riots break out is in the 1850s under the British. And why? Because the British started this tactic, divide and conquer. When Hitler first became the Führer, he said, this is the beginning of a new dawn. He said, we're going to see Germany glorious for 1,000 years. Literally, when I was hearing Modi, I'm like, have you taken from Hitler or what? Nazism, BJP, and Zionism are all three sides of the same ideology. The BJP and the Zionists have strong relationships. Why? Hindus love the Zionists. Right now, we're witnessing Gaza. I'm going to link it into Gaza. Why do you think the Hindutva, I should say, when I say Hindus, I should scrap that, Hindutva. There are many Hindus, they're good people. And the Hindutva and the Zionists form alliances together. Why? Because they're the same ideology. Ethnic superiority, religious zeal, and nationalism for one group. That's Zionism, and that's Hindutva, and that's Nazism. Modi and Netanyahu are very good friends. Because both of them are calling for cultural genocide. So they want to eliminate Palestinians. They want to eliminate Muslims. The same ideology. What happens when you want to eliminate the culture and history? You start eliminating the people. Israel is doing this. Israel has begun. What does this mean for the BJP then? What does it mean for the Muslims of India? Historically, to claim that Hinduism united India is itself a massive mistake, because I need you to understand this very simple point. Hinduism is not like a religion that we understand. Hinduism is a collection of diverse beliefs, contradictory ideologies. Hinduism is not like Islam or Judaism or Christianity, set beliefs. No, Hinduism doesn't have a unified theology. It doesn't have unified rituals. It doesn't even have the same gods. Actually, Hinduism is the name given to many hundreds of different philosophies, ideologies, theologies. And within one of these strands, you will not view the other strand as being the same as you. You might as well view it as an outside religion altogether. It is only the outsiders, and that's the British in particular, who can label all of these different groups as basically being one. Additionally, Hinduism is known for a strict adherence to the caste system. And the caste system has always caused them to be disunited. It is a very important fact of history that it was the Muslims who acted as a catalyst to bring the caste together under a system of government. This is a very well-known and yet rarely mentioned fact of history. The Muslims don't care about castes. They don't care if you're Brahman, if you're Shodra, if you're untouchable. Muslims don't care. So the Muslims acted as a catalyst to bring diverse groups of Hindus together to work under one administration, one group. The Hindus would never have been able to do that of their own. Also, factually speaking, this notion of Hindus being a tolerant, a vibrant diversity, this has been disproven by many academic books. One of the famous historians of India, one of the professors at the Delhi University, his name is D.N. Jha, G-H-A, D.N. Jha, J-H-A. His books are found on Amazon. He was the main professor of Indian history at Delhi University, and he was very anti-BJP. He's a Hindu, but he's anti-BJP. He wrote so many books to irritate the BJPs that the BJP literally, they almost, I'm not saying killed him, but they almost like tried to kick him out and whatnot. And he documents that before the coming of Muslims, every Hindu dynasty would regularly demolish the temples of others. They didn't have any sanctity of religion. And in fact, he mentions the number of temples demolished under Muslims is a fraction of what was demolished pre-coming of Islam. And he and others mention that Hindu-Muslim sectarianism only began with the arrival of the British. We're going to come back to this point multiple times. This is historically. Politically, India was never united, ever. Even under the Muslims, it was never united. India was always multiple competing dynasties. And the largest dynasty and the largest empire before the coming of the colonizers, the British, was without a doubt the Mughal dynasty. If India had any unity, it is because of the Mughals. No other dynasty ever conquered even a fraction of the land the Mughals did simultaneously. And the Indian BJP loves to think about the classical ancient kings like Ashoka. Ashoka's dynasty in 250 CE was literally 1/6 the size of Aurangzeb's. Ashoka had nothing compared to Aurangzeb. So the very notion of a unified India does not exist. Hindutva is based on the premise that India belongs to Hindus. There was no India before colonization, and there was no Hindus before colonization. The very premise falls apart. Do you understand this point? As I explained, there was no unified India. The concept of India as being one land is coming from the British. And the concept of Hinduism as being one theology is once again coming from the outsider. Also politically, the Muslims were never colonizers. The Muslims ruled as locals. They adopted the culture, they gave back to the culture. As for the British ruled as a superior class. The British were distinct. The British lived separately, acted separately. The British did not learn the language. The British did not care about India. The British lived as a superior caste amongst all of them. As for the Muslim dynasties, all of them, they lived with the people, like the people. And they took charge as they are a part of the people. And in fact, they defended India from external invaders. One of the iconic battles that every Muslim should mention in these types of discussions, when the Mongols invaded. You know, the Mongols sacked Baghdad, 1248. The Abbasi Khilafah came to an end. When they finished Baghdad, they turned their attention to India. And they attacked India. Who defended India against the Mongols? Alauddin Khilji. Alauddin Khilji, the Turkic, the Muslim. This is pre-Mughal. This is way before Babur. If you don't know your history, Babur comes, 1450, right? 1500. We're talking about Alauddin Khilji in the 1280s, 1290s. This is way before Babur. Khilji is from the Delhi Sultanate, way before them. He is the one of the few generals and leaders in human history who defeats the Mongols. Had it not been for Khilji, the Mongols would have taken India, and truly India would not have been India anymore. Hindus need to understand and appreciate, when the Muslims ruled, they ruled as if it is their land, and they defended as if it is their land. That's exactly what they did over here. And that's why in the War of Independence, 1857, when they rebelled against the British, when the Hindus needed an icon to fight behind, the Hindus and the Muslims chose Khan Bahadur Shah Zafar, the last Mughal emperor. The Hindus rallied the Mughal emperor, "You be our leader," against the British. They understood they were one against the Angrez, against the British. They understood this. And again, one point we're going to mention over and over again, this division of India into Hindu and Muslim hating one another, it is straight from the British playbook. How does the British play? Divide and conquer. How does the British rule over vast territories? Divide and conquer. And they manifested this tactic most apparently in India. And the sad reality, BJP is not coming from the Vedic scriptures. BJP is coming from British tactics. This is the sad reality. Hindutva is not coming from ancient Hinduism. Hindutva is coming from a seed planted by British imperialists. The notion that India was a great civilization and the Muslims pillaged and whatnot, this notion was first advocated by the British. And they did so. Why? Because the Muslims were the militarily powerful and the elite, but the Hindus were the majority. So you have to divide between them. You have to create hatred. You have to make it such that this majority does not look up to the Hindu elite to fight against us. So the British for 200 years kept on preaching this narrative. And what was the thamara, the fruit of this narrative? The RSS. And what is RSS thamara? BJP, literally. Literally there's an isnad. The BJP comes from RSS. The RSS comes straight out of these tactics. The Hindutva believes India was a magnificent superpower. Once again, we stop them. We say, excuse me. The Mughal Empire was a superpower. If you want to consider Hindustan to be a superpower, it wasn't the Rajputs, it wasn't the Marathas, it wasn't the Guptas, it was the Mughal Empire. When the British first set foot in India, India's GDP was 25% of the world's GDP. That is what you call a superpower. India was 1/4 of the world's economic power. That's why everybody wanted to go there. Christopher Columbus wanted to go there. The British wanted to go there. The Portuguese wanted to go there. The Spanish wanted to go there. The Italians wanted to go there. Why? Not because of those other dynasties. It was because of the Mughal dynasty. The Mughal dynasty had 1/4 of the world's GDP. This is in around 1500. Fast forward to 1950 when the British leave, and India now has 4% of the world's GDP because of the British. The anger that the Hindutva have should not be towards the Mughals who had the GDP. It should be towards the British who really pillaged and plundered and, as the saying goes, looted. Even the word loot, they looted. Took it from Hindi. The word loot is from Hindi. And they looted loot, and they took it into their own language. And the word loot, along with some other words, comes from Hindi. So it is the British that the Hindutva should be angry at. Their own basic history they don't even know. As for intellectually, so much can be said. And wallahi, we Muslims from that region, we should be so proud, Islamically proud, nothing wrong with that, of our heritage, the types of icons we produced. If India had only produced Shah Waliullah ad-Dehlavi, it is enough of a civilizational gift to the rest of the ummah. But India produced so much more. India produced, of course, Ahmad Sid Hindi. India produced the Dars-e-Nizami, which is one of the most, in fact today, it is the most taught Islamic curriculum in the whole world. You all know this. The Dars-e-Nizami, where was it produced? It was produced in India. India produced some of the most classical books, the Fatawa Alamgiriya under Aurangzeb. The father of Shah Waliullah was on the committee. Shah Waliullah's father was the one who wrote, or one of the many, who wrote Fatawa Hindiya, Fatawa Alamgiriya, one of the most iconic books of, it was the canon of law in India for 200 years. India produced a civilization the likes of which, again, it is unparalleled in the time frame. And again, the very fact that Babur is coming and writing an autobiography, and Babur wrote aspects of fiqh even, like the Hanafi fiqh, actually writing stuff. Babur, as the ruler, he's writing stuff in this regard. And the Muslims of India also produced the greatest architectural icons of the country, not just the Taj Mahal. Overall, the architecture of India, what is iconic about it? It is the Mughal architecture. It was the Muslims of India who worked to overcome the caste system, beginning with Babur. In fact, in his Baburnama, Babur is amazed, shocked, astounded to discover the caste system. And he goes, I don't understand. Groups of people are not talking to one another because of their background. Like, he doesn't understand this. And so Babur begins to form alliances between them. You would never have had the glory of Hindustan without the catalyst of the Muslims to bring different groups together. Language-wise, modern Hindi is 30-40% from Turkic, Farsi and Arabic. Modern Hindi would not exist without the Muslim influence. So many Hindi words, Imarat, Sarkar, Dost, Nazar, Tijarat, Lota, it all comes from Turkic. Cuisine-wise, biryani, straight from the Persians. Gulab jamun is coming from the Persians. Jalebi, coming from the Arabs originally, and then obviously India size in the way. Can you imagine India without gulab jamun and biryani and jalebi? Culturally bankrupt. It's all coming from the Mughal interactions. In fact, I mean, this is going to get me into a lot of trouble from my critics, and I have so many of them. May Allah protect me. SubhanAllah. The critics, I sometimes wonder, can you sometimes shoot some arrows towards the BJP or Israel rather than towards your fellow Muslims? I just don't get it. Like, the critics are so gung-ho, whatever thing they find, Yasir Qadhi, this, that. Calm down. We have wars going on. BJP is going to do this. Just calm down. Look at some bigger issues. So I'm going to say something. I know my critics are going to go crazy with this, but I'm teaching you educational class here. I'm not endorsing. I'm just teaching you facts. So please understand. Just because I have a religious background doesn't mean everything I say becomes the stamp of approval. I'm teaching you history and facts. Where am I going with this? Bollywood. This is going to get me into a lot of trouble. But you wouldn't have the Indian cinema without what? The Urdu ghazal, the Urdu sher shairi, the Urdu qawwali. Wallahi, this is an academic talk. Please don't misunderstand that I'm endorsing, please. I'm being academic. I'm trying to explain Indian culture as we know it is intricately shaped by the Muslims. That's what I'm trying to say here. Please, my critics, understand. Don't just say kafir, bid'ah, shirk. Calm down, ya akhi, please. There's much more going on in the world, wallahi. As I said, sometimes shoot some arrows outside rather than inside. But factually speaking, what was all of the elders here, by the way, you're older than me, some of you. What was the iconic movie that made Indian cinema global? So, Mughal Azam was the first blockbuster movie that it wasn't called Bollywood at the time, it made Indian cinema global. Mughal Azam is about the Muslims. The story is written by Muslims. The director of the movie is a Muslim. And the actor that plays in it, Dilip Kumar, is a Muslim.